I was hoping to get this airplane done for this summer. I wanted to get it done the 1st of July to the middle of July, so I'd be able to use it for at least most of the season here, make some money with it. But things are going a lot slower than I expected or had hoped. Finishing those covers for the holes in the floorboards there puts me up to the point where I could move the airplane down to the hangar and start hanging the wings and the tail surfaces and the engine and getting it ready for that. But I screwed up the skylight trying to form it. I didn't take the paper cover off of it when I started to heat it up to form it to fit that back portion, and it blistered pretty bad. It blistered to the point where they go all the way through. I sealed that up with some RTV, some clear RTV, and that would make it usable, but it's not right. And then on the left front window, the triangular one, that cracked, and it cracked back just to the point where it's into the window itself and not just around in the frame. So I ordered new plexiglass, and that's going to take some time to get here, and I should go ahead and just keep this airplane here in the basement to do those. It's a lot easier to do that stuff in here than it is down in the hangar once I get the wings on and stuff. So because of those delays, I can go ahead and work on a couple other things that I wasn't going to do. One of the things that I've been holding off on was doing this backseat heat. This control box for the backseat heater, it looks okay once I got it sandblasted and stuff, but when you start looking close at it, it's really terrible. First off, it's made out of real heavy gauge metal, and it's pretty heavy. But this flapper valve in here, this control valve in here, is quite a bit smaller than the inside dimensions of the box. It was filled in with some kind of a fabric to seal that off, and it wasn't a very good fabric. It burned up with just the heat coming through there. So it's allowing heat to pass through there all of the time, and it's rusty in there. Back in these corners and stuff, I sandblasted the heck out of it, and I can't get it really clean. It's pitted pretty bad in here on this butterfly valve. Like I said, it's kind of nasty. I talked to Atlee Dodge about getting a new one last year when I was in Anchorage, and they were going to build one for me and send it to me. The new kits on these come in stainless steel instead of steel, and they're about, I don't know, $500, $600 for the kit. They were going to build me just a box, the air box, for $400, but they never did get back with me on that. Oh, I need to do something else with it. This is the way that it came out. This mounted into the side kick panel on the right hand side down by the pilot seat, and the hose came from this control box down to this and then just vented out right there. Well, it came right out on my hip, right on the pilot's hip. Well, I took a piece of 2-inch scat tubing and put on here and run it down underneath the seat, and then I had a Y, and I actually took 2 pieces of scat tubing and whited off underneath the seat, so it came out in 2 places in the back seat instead of just one, which was pretty nice. But this was all right there where your feet were and got crushed and things like that, and with that Kydex panel in there, I'm not really sure I want that heat coming out right there. Well, I was thinking about doing something a little more convenient, mounting this on the floorboard underneath the pilot's seat and running the tube down underneath the boot cowl and coming in through here, and then having this vent out underneath the pilot seat, put a piece of scat tubing on here and come out underneath the pilot seat and vent it right to the back where it would blow right on the back seat person. But this 2-inch tubing is just too big. It wouldn't fit around that lower longeron within the confines of the boot cowl. I crushed it and tried a whole bunch of different things to experiment with it, and that wouldn't work. There's just not enough room between the bottom of the floorboard and the boot cowl for this tube here to fit in there. They use carbon fiber for a lot of that stuff, and so I got a piece of carbon fiber flat stock here and a piece of tubing, and I'm going to make a floor penetration similar to this, but I'm going to do it in 1-inch instead of in 2-inch. And I've got some 1-inch scat tubing to run in there. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with this box, but as long as I've still got this opened up and don't have the boot cowl on yet, I've got time. I might as well go ahead and do something with this. Well, I laid this out initially on this piece of flat stock that I got, this chunk of carbon fiber, and then I set it in the airplane to look at it, and this is way too big. So I need to trim this down half of this. Well, I've got some marks on here. I need to trim it down right into so that it takes this much in. I took this piece of dowel, and this is what I used to make the form for that cover on the torque tube underneath the front of the torque tube. Well, I cut this off and tried different angles to figure out what angle I wanted that to come through there at, and then I can get the dimension for the size of the cutout in this plate. Well, this is what I've got so far. I cut out this smaller, more manageable piece. This will be the plate that goes on the floor, and I've got it. I cut it out to size, and we cut it out in the middle for this hose tube to fit through here. Well, I've got some resin that I got in a kit with this carbon fiber, the plain cloth. I'm going to cut some strips off this cloth to use to glue this on together here for filler, and to fill that hole, and glue this tube into this flat piece, and then this scat tubing, the 1-inch scat tubing, will fit over this tube and go on around and up towards the firewall where the valve will be, and then this piece here will put a piece of scat tube on it. It'll go back underneath the floor and towards the back seat. Well, I chopped up some carbon fiber, and I got way more than I needed, but it's always better to have more than not enough. I cut this fabric here that I got with this kit, and then shredded it and cut the chunks up into short pieces, mixed them up with some resin and spread on this thing. Now I gotta wait for it to set up. The fiberglass, this stuff's taking a while to set up. And I drilled a hole in the floorboard and got it opened up, but I don't have it opened up near enough yet for this tube to pass through, so I'll have to get the sander. I think I'll put the little drum sander on the Dremel tool and hog it out with that. I was doing it with files, but that was going kind of slow. Okay, this is what I wound up with. This is the through fitting with a carbon fiber 1-inch tube coming through a plate, and I glued it in with resin mixed with carbon fiber fibers, screwed down with some number 4 screws. This will come out underneath the seat, and then we'll stick this piece of scat tube on there, run it underneath the seat, tie it up underneath the seat, and kind of vent it out towards the passenger. And here what we got underneath here, this is where it comes out. Got a piece of scat tube connected on there with a hose clamp onto that where it comes out, and then just run along this diagonal. I used some tie wraps to hold it up tight against that diagonal so it doesn't flop around. It's well down below where my boot cowl is going to go, and it'll come up here to the front around this lower longeron that goes to the engine mount. It's pretty tight right here. Might have to squish that down a little bit, compress that a little bit as it comes around that corner, and then we'll come up here, and the control box will be right here. Anyway, that piece is in there.